Hey guys, and welcome to the Just Arrival podcast. I am your host, DJ Be Cool, and I have my co-host here, the Texans fan, Aaron. We are
I
here
don't I don't I
live
don't even want to put
on
the
a.
H's up. That's how disappointed I am.
Wait, really?
I didn't even want to put the H's up. I'm so
Oh
out of
no.
it with Texans.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean,
Oh
shoot,
man.
this is the Just Arrival, just the show getting live on a Friday afternoon here. It is officially 4:25 Eastern, and we are
Mhm.
live here right now, going to talk about the Colts and the Texans, their seasons through basically, essentially, Aaron, the first two quarters of the season. The Texans
Mhm.
standing at 2-4, coming off a rough loss on the road to Seattle, and the Colts walking in 6-1, dominating in SoFi, getting their revenge against the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, shoot, Aaron, right here, Colts and Texans just feels like they're on opposite spectrums right here
Yeah.
when it comes to their records. But Aaron, why don't you go first here? I know you got a lot to get off your chest about this Texans team. What has been going wrong for the Texans in these first two quarters of the season?
Honestly, the thing I'm gonna start off with, it's crazy how we kind of predicted the schedules to look like one are like each other's. Like the Colts record right now should be the Texans record. The Texans record should probably be the Colts record. But that's how the NFL season goes. And right now, man, as a Texan fan, it is disappointing. It's we're in pretty much disaster mode where it's either fans are the diehard, they don't want to look at the bad side of things, and then you got the diehard fans that are quitting on the team already, which I'm on the spectrum of quitting already because with how we've been looking offensively, not defensively, because defensively we look good, we look good and great. Yeah, we had a little hiccup against the Seahawks, giving up uh, two starting uh, two starting drive touchdowns, but that's because they had to immediately get back on the field because of the offense. And then the other side of the ball, special teams, they've been decent and all right, but when it came to the Seahawks game, they looked like they didn't know who they were anymore. Like getting into it with special teams because they're the easy thing to start off with. Uh, Special teams, Frank Ross, punt returner, Jalen Noel. He's been great for us like all year. Honestly, he's looked great. He had that one big punt return against the Buccaneers that everybody saw that gave us the lead at the end of the game. It was like I believe it was about a 70-yard punt return. I think it was. You know, he was always looking great at punt return. He sort of like reminded us of how Tank Dell looked at punt returner. And coming into the Seahawks game, we're all like, okay, well, once we get the ball back, maybe we'll get good field advantage because Jalen Knowles back there. No, they decided let's put Braxton Berrios at punt returner. Braxton Berrios, who hasn't been a punt returner or kick returner since week one. And bro, I'm not gonna lie, when I was watching the game, Braxton tripped over his own self. He was just running into the tacklers. I'm like, why do we have
Man,
Braxton here
yeah,
all game instead of Jalen? Yeah, Jalen's a weapon in the wide receiver room now, but that doesn't mean take him away from his punt return that he's used to. And bro, I'm gonna get into it right now on Twitter because I've liked all the press conferences and all that. Um, from Landry Locker, head Texans lead analyst with news reports. Yeah, he had the report press conference with Frank Ross, our special teams coach. It was Frank Ross saying that Jalen Noel is basically a rotational punt returner at this point, and justifying him not returning punts because he blocked on kickoffs. So it's a shocker that they're just calling him a rotational punt returner when it's like he's looked great all season. You're calling him rotational that we can put somebody else out there to maybe look better than him. When they put Braxton back there, he didn't look good. He was tripping over himself. Tacklers were getting to him quick because he's not as fast as Jalen. So special teams, I don't know what's happened to them, but they just look terrible too. The only thing good about special teams is Kaimi, and that's another thing.
yeah.
That's another thing I'm gonna get into. There was 2 minutes and 4 seconds left on the clock for us to maybe stop the Seahawks for one final drive to get the ball back. And everybody's even the commentators on the Monday Night Football. I believe it was Kirk Herbstreit. I think it was Kirk. No. It was Dan Orlovsky. They were saying, oh, Texans are going to be smart and kick it out of bounds, which everybody thought, kick it out of bounds so that you're not going to waste that 4 seconds to get to 2-minute warning. No, they kicked it inside for the Seahawks to run it back and kill the 4 seconds to get the 2-minute warning out of it. And everybody's like, what happened there? Then they get to press conference. D'Amico said, oh, that's on Kaimi. Kaimi, didn't
Damn.
listen, and everybody's like,
There's no accountability.
no one. So he pointed the finger
Yeah,
at the kicker, saying, "Oh, he
that's
misjudged
yeah.
what I wanted him to do, so he made his own decision." And everybody's just looking at him like to be on his ass about, hey, kick it out of bounds or kick it in a spot that they can't kill the clock. So with
Yeah.
special teams, that's my first topic with that is how, like, that's what I told you before this we started the stream, is the communication, dude, is terrible right now. Even with our, the basic side of the ball, which is special teams, that everybody should be communicating well. So
Yeah, exactly.
like,
And you really look at it like the special teams part of it, like you were saying, it's I
mm,
mean, it's horrific. Like you were saying, the communication's not there. And as well as I did want to bring, some things up, which
mm,
brings me to a question I have about, this receiving core, right? Dalton Schultz, that's the guy that you normally have, as the check down option, that tight end check down, the comfortable, you call it the safety blanket for CJ
mm,
Stroud. And Nico Collins, surprisingly, he gets 10 targets against Seattle and he only ends up with
mm,
4 for 27. Now, partially,
yep,
right, Seattle has a good defense, right? I'll give them the
mm.
benefit of the doubt. But when it comes to some of these receivers that are getting high targets but ending up with low receptions, what do you think, is part of that? Do you think it's CJ Stroud not being able to get of his guys because of CJ Stroud not performing well? Or do you think that it's more the offensive line just not giving him time to go downfield?
So, now that it gives me time to get on the offense, because defense, I'm not going to
Oh,
hound
yeah.
on them at all. Like, defense has been holding their own. They are I still believe, the number one defense. They had trouble against Jason, but dude, that's Jason. Jason's top five receiver
Yeah.
in this league right
JSN
now.
is good.
He's a threat, and that's because when he was in the draft, I was praying so hard for us to draft him when he was drafted. I wanted him so bad to be paired up with CJ, but we couldn't get that. So hats off to him for having a great season. But when we get to the offense, dude, it's all Nick Caley. It's all Nick Caley. He looks flustered in the press conferences. He looks like during the press conferences he keeps stuttering. He's more of, once the media hounds on him, he doesn't know what he wants to go after. Like, there was, once again, it pissed me off. Once again, like the Buccaneers, we were at the 1 yard line of our end zone. We couldn't score with four downs, and we couldn't score a touchdown at the 1 yard line. And that's just pathetic. And he says, well, we're at the 1 yard line, and because the media got him, I loved it. The media said, why don't you QB sneak it? You've been QB sneak has been such a great move to go for when it's just like the Eagles, the tush push, anything like that. But no, he doubled down and said, oh, we know at the 1 yard line, we saw the plays that we wanted and we thought they were the right plays. And so he decided, oh, let's go for two pass plays at the 1 yard line. Two pass plays under center. And CJ isn't that great under center. He's more of a shotgun guy, a shotgun or anything like that. But under center, getting a pass off at the 1 yard line, that's pathetic. Like, that's on him. When you talk about the wide receivers, there was I went back to Twitter, look at all the routes and all that, because a lot of Texan Twitter pages and all that, they profiled Nico to look at his routes. Dude, all of him as the number one wide receiver on our team, he all of his routes were either cuts to the outside, hitches to the outside, or anything like that. All of our other receivers who are still young are having trouble against the man, against zone, breaking against the other man. They're all running deep in medium crossing routes. Meanwhile, Nico's running crossing routes out of bounds, hitching routes out of bounds. Like, what are we doing? Why do you have Nico running those type of routes for him to either get a pass deflected or get the ball knocked out or hit down immediately? So that's on Nick Caley with his routes for Nico. I'm just like, you got Nico not looking like a top 10 receiver because of your play calls. This one right here. um, and then when we get to the running back position, dude, we ran less than 15 times. And that's because he decided, oh, it doesn't look that great, so let's stay away. Our leading rusher was CJ Stroud. Like, our running
Yeah,
backs
that's
did not get enough time. Fourth and
yeah.
one. We were fourth and one 4th and one where you can literally QB sneaking. No, he decides to do an up tempo zone run when our running back Woody Marks wasn't ready. He wasn't ready, so he got
That's
blown up.
yeah, that's
He got
insane.
blown up for a turnover down. So it is pathetic, dude. And when you get to the offense line, I don't know if you saw it, but there's a play, there's a picture where CJ's in shotgun by himself. Three of our offense linemen are on one guy,
Oh yeah,
and there's a free pass rusher heading
I
towards
think I might have
CJ.
seen that play.
So I'm sitting there looking at that
Yeah,
picture
that's
like, this is terrible, dude. And
yeah, and I mean,
oh, whatever.
you can't really blame it on that. It's more though the Texans offensive line, like you were saying, the Texans offensive line has just been horrible. It's been
Hmm.
horrible, man, and you just can't have that. If I'm
Yeah.
D'Amico Ryans, hey, right, let's rile up our troops and let's
Hmm.
figure out who is the cause, right? Who's at fault here, right? And if obviously, like you said, Nick Haley is
Hmm.
clearly at fault, and I think there's a lack of accountability, like you were saying. There's a lack of communication. I'm not even a Texans fan, and I'm
Yeah.
listing out right like all the problems that are going on with the Texans is like the lack of transparency, you could say, lack of honesty, because Joe Mixon, there's been some confusion, right, from the
Hmm.
media trying to communicate with the coaches about what's going on with Joe Mixon. Why is he not on the field yet? Right? They said he was only going to miss the first 4 games, and that's kind of what I was going to ask you too. Now that we're kind of on the side of the offense, what has been going on with Joe Mixon and that injury? Is he possibly out for the whole season, or is there, a lack of clarity there?
So at this point, because if nobody's checked it out yet, go to my channel, HOU Bullcast. I put, the video trade targets and who's on the front cover because there's been rumors. Brees Hall. The reason Brees Hall is on there is because at this point, Joe Mixon's out for the season. Nobody knows anything about him. He's pretty much gone for the season. He had some lingering issue. I believe it was in his leg. I believe. But
Oh
at this
wow,
point, we all believe he's out for the
yeah.
season because there's no rumors of him coming back. At this point, Tank Dell's coming back sooner than him. Like, but there's still no rumor of Tank Dell, but it's still of we know nothing about Joe Mixon because of his injury, and nobody's talking about it because they want to hide it. So that's why at this point there's already rumors of if we are buyers at the trade deadline. I believe we're going to be sellers though because of how trash we're looking. But if we are buyers, then I can see somebody like Brees Hall getting acquired by us because Chubb is good, but he's not the Chubb he used to be. Woody Marks, he's good, but he's still an underutilized rookie that is still trying to get his way in the NFL. So you want a veteran, you want a great pass catcher, running back, a great running back in general. So somebody like Brees Hall would be nice because he is playing with a 0-6 Jets team that will sell him for as much as they can get. But like I said,
Exactly.
when you have an offensive line that is struggling, they can't communicate when they see stunts or high blitzes or free blitzes. They can't communicate well. They're not communicating with CJ. Admit it, I will blame a bit of it on CJ because there was that play that should have been a safety. He was in shotgun. They were like 20 yards away from the end zone.
Yeah.
He ran backwards 18 yards, and I was looking at CJ like,
Uh,
what are you doing running backwards 18 yards? Get rid of the ball. I understand that the offensive line is trash, but don't run 18 yards backwards and almost get a safety. It should have been a safety. I'm not gonna lie.
no, yeah, it should have. It definitely should have. And I mean, like you were saying, just that safety. I mean, I don't even know, Aaron. Like, when I looked at that Texans Seattle game, right? I looked at the score, and I was
Yeah,
like, oh wow, it was a competitive game, right? I was like, okay, at least they hanged in there.
yeah,
I look at the highlights, and I'm like, what is going on? The Texans, they look like a mess on offense. Their defense is trying to get turnovers, but it feels
yep,
like every time they do, the Texans just give it right back. They're like, oh, we
yeah,
don't want it. Like the Texans just on offense, like maybe CJ Stroud, you know, at this point, Nick Haley and CJ Stroud, it just feels like there's a disconnect, right? Like you were saying,
yeah,
CJ Stroud loves to play from shotgun, and he likes to play a different form of offense that Nick Haley is the complete opposite of, right? He likes to more the under center, right? Going on the run game, just a different sense of playing offense, a different form of football that CJ Stroud is just not comfortable with. And I think that because of that disconnect, Texans don't want to admit it, but it might have just been the wrong hire at offensive coordinator. And I do believe that this is the first offensive coordinator job for Nick Haley, correct?
yeah, and it is. And
Yeah.
what actually sparked a lot of how can I say like views on like my TikToks that I share, my YouTube videos that I share is this picture that's on my thumbnail of Nick Casario, our GM, who I believe should be fired either mid-season or the end of the season. Him in his Texans uniform, patting a man in a Patriots uniform, and who is in that uniform? Nick Caley. So all the
Oh
roots of
man.
the Patriots are still in this organization, and it is just terrible, dude. We're just like I say, we're the poor Patriots of the South. We keep acquiring guys from the Patriots organization. Say Bill O'Brien was terrible for us. Mike Vrabel, he was our defense coordinator. He was great at defense coordinator. Moved on to the Titans. Let's see, Romeo Crennel. He became our head coach back in a little back a while back. Now we hired Nick Serio, GM, used to be with the Patriots. Nick Caley with the Patriots. Like it's all just constant years of we still got a Patriots guy in the building, and we're just like that one Patriots guy in the building will set the stone for more Patriots guys to get in the building because our offensive line coach Kolbovich, where did he come from? He came from the Patriots. So it's everything about except for
Yeah.
the defense. The defense is kind of just their own like branded D'Amico Ryan's branded defense, but offensively, organizationally, it's all Patriots blooded.
Yeah, and I mean, you really look at I mean, Nick Haley again. He's on a leash here. I really think these next three games are going to say a lot about who the Texans are. I really think that well, not like we've already not known what the Texans are, right? Um,
Yeah.
but there's a chance for the Texans to change that image through these next three games, and I really think it starts with the Niners, right? That, in my opinion, you have to win that game. I know it's Kyle Shanahan. I know it's the 49ers. It's Robert Saleh. But if you're on the Texans side, that is a must win. If I'm D'Amico
Hmm.
Ryans, you gotta go in, hold Nick Haley accountable, and say, "Hey, rile your troops. Get your shit together, right? Because
Yeah.
Niners, the Broncos, you have the Jaguars. These are three tough games that must really needed games because especially the Broncos, that's AFC matchup. The Jacksonville
Mm.
Jaguars divisional. Yeah, you have the Titans, Tennessee, still divisional matchup, right? I know you should probably be able to destroy the Titans, and then the Colts, right? And then you're traveling to Indianapolis to face the Colts. Then you got the Chiefs, and then you got Arizona with them. So again, the way the season outlook is for Houston, those first three games are gonna really be those statement games. If you lose all three, there's a chance Nick Haley gets fired midseason, right? Probably before that Jacksonville game, right? If you
Mm.
lose to the Niners and the Broncos, you would go 2-6, and if you lose to Jacksonville, 2-7, and you're looking at to the draft at that point, because the rest of the season at that point is just done. You can't start 2-7 and expect to make it in the league, especially in the AFC where it's just getting tougher and tougher every year. Of course, this year you could argue the NFC has looked tougher, right? But the AFC
Mhm.
still, it's just not easy to get here in this league. And the Houston Texans, I would say, like this, in your opinion, Aaron, I've been kind of riling up for,
No,
talking
you're
for a
good.
lot here, but I do want to hear from your perspective. How important are these next three games and really just showing if the Texans can be a playoff contender this year?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I it's sad to say, but bro, I hope Robert Saleh outcoaches the shit out of not Bobby Sloan, not Bobby Sloan, Nick Haley.
Out of Nick
Nick
Haley,
Haley.
yeah, not Bobby Slow. No, yeah,
I I hope he outcoaches the shit out of Nick Haley because dude, I don't care at this point if we lose. I want to see Nick Haley out of the building already. Like seeing him,
yeah.
seeing his face, seeing how honestly he looks flustered with his playbook in his hand on the sideline. At this point, I'm just ready to see him out of the building. I'm ready to see Nick Casario out of the building because we haven't heard anything from our GM. Like we barely hear him say anything. D'Amico Ryan's is like one tip away from being on my a major hot seat of firing. It's at this point of I wouldn't mind seeing us lose to the 49ers because if we if we beat the 49ers, what's that going to do? It's going to give the team hope. It's going to give fans hope. Too much optimism that we had optimism for 15 days before playing the Seahawks. 15 days for you to get ready to play the Seahawks. 15 days for the fans to be optimistic. Like, hey, we beat the Titans, we beat the Ravens, heading into the bye week. We're gonna come back great. 15 days later, we look like shit. So at this point, dude, these games are important, but to me, they're important for the man upstairs, which is Cal McNair, to be like, let me step in because I know Nick Casario isn't going to fire his buddy. That's how it's going to be.
Exactly. Again, someone's got to step up, and if you let these games go on, 2-6 at this no 2-6, 2-7 is even a
Yeah,
possibility. Jacksonville, they're still a good team. You right?
yeah,
You could argue that. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is probably the only like not the best quarterback, but he's doing enough right now for the Jacksonville
hmm
Jaguars to win games. And they aren't easy teams, and then just having the Buffalo Bills there as well. I didn't even actually see that wasn't the Cardinals, that was the Buffalo Bills on week 12. Oh boy. And then the
oh
Colts,
man,
the Chiefs, and it just goes on and on. And when you look at the Texans, that those are just games you got to win. But yeah,
yeah.
let's go ahead, and transition it here. We talked about the
Not
Texans.
be too
Now,
depressed.
not get, too sad. Let's look at the other side. No, I'm just kidding. Let's look at the other side of the AFC South right now, which is the Colts, the surprise of the NFL, as officially, Aaron, they're the best team in the NFL right now on their
Mhm.
record, on paper, the best football team in the NFL so far. Who knew they were going to be here through 7 games? Shoot, I didn't know. Sure, you could
Yeah,
ask any Colts fan and say, "Hey, before this, no, like no one before the season was like, we're going to be the best team in the league." Probably your nearby guy in the street, right next door, your neighbor Allen or something, right? But definitely not any Colts fan, generally speaking. And they've just looked amazing. I mean, the stats already speak for themselves. They are number one in points per game. They are number two in yards per game and top five in a lot of offensive categories here, Aaron. And I want to get an outside perspective on this. What do you think so far of this Colts team through 7 games? Do you think they're legit right now, or do you think, kind of like some parts of the media are saying, do you think that they're bound to go downhill?
no, to be honest, I think the Colts are legit. And when we talk about the deadline coming up, I believe it's November 4th. Colts are going to either are more likely going to get somebody for their defensive side because their defense, y'all are good defensively, but I know y'all want to upgrade it a little bit more, to make sure that like your offense doesn't have to do too much, but keep scoring as much as they have. But when we talk about the offensive side, I said in the offseason before the season started, I said I believe Daniel Jones will be the starter and he will do better than Anthony Richardson. That because I know everybody, even the media, had the whole like sort of the whole racist opinion or anything like that. Like, oh, they're gonna start Daniel Jones because he's white, but no, it's because he has more talent and he's showing it right now. That's why they're 6-1. But when we talk about the rest of the offense, Tyler Warren, beast. John Taylor, a monster back there. He's having a great season. He's looking like Saquon of last year. That's how he's looking. The offensive line, they look good. Wide receivers, they're doing good. Especially they have that good chemistry with Daniel Jones in just their first year. So hats off to the defense, coaching. The only, yeah, y'all lost to the Rams, but y'all didn't lose to the Rams. Y'all just lost to yourselves. It was a bit of a shooting ourselves in the foot. So I'm not saying the Rams outcoach y'all or beat y'all, which they did, but not like in a fashionable sense of saying, oh, the Rams beat the Colts. No, it was more of the Colts beating the Colts. And after they lost that game, the Colts knew who they were and kept moving on, moving on. Like seeing y'all beat the crap out of the Chargers, I was just like, nah, this is the team. This is the team right here.
No, definitely.
And
And I mean, the
yeah,
Colts, they have been just excellent and just excellent at being able to, like you were saying, I mean, just get points on the board. And the surprises to me is more like the defense. Defense, the points per game they're allowing is top 10 in the league, yet their yards per game is ranked 22nd. So they're giving up a lot of yards, but they're not giving up points. So it's like a bend, don't break type of defense, which I prefer rather than Gus Bradley, where it was more like the same thing every time. It was just cover three, cover two, zone coverage, right?
yeah,
And they're being able to get a lot of turnovers. I like Lou Anarumo, what he's added to this defense. He's like the mad scientist, Dr. Lou, right, as
yeah,
they all call him. This is a defensive coordinator that definitely has added something. And The culture looks amazing for the Colts right now, and the offensive line, like you were saying, I mean, they're top 5 in the
Mm.
league. They have Tyler Warren, who looks like, I don't want to get too hyped here, the
Hey,
next
hey, hey! He
upcoming
he he
Gronk,
helps win my
right?
fantasy
I
games.
mean,
All right,
we'll
he helps
see.
win my fantasy games.
Yeah. No, definitely. Tyler Warren, man, he's amazing. Shooting fantasy everywhere across the board. That guy, he's been amazing, an amazing addition to this Colts offense. And I
Mm.
think, that's the cherry on top, right?
Oh
That's how
yeah.
they say it. This offense, you have Jonathan Taylor, you have Daniel Jones,
Mhm.
right? A guy that, there are a few limitations with him, but I like how Shane Steichen is able to use him for his strengths so that his limitations aren't shown. He's
Mhm.
make the offensive system really surround him in a positive way. And you have Michael Pittman, right? That's six
Yeah.
four, long arms, really good, reliable receiver. Josh Downs, reliable on third downs. And then you have Alec Pierce, the deep threat, which
Mm.
he's now being used a lot on slants and crossers. So now you have to worry about him on the middle of the field.
Yeah, with his speed, yeah.
And then you have Tyler Warren, the cherry on top, right? And then obviously Jonathan Taylor in the run game, best running
Mhm.
back in the league so far. So this is a team that's destined to potentially make the Super Bowl this year. I mean, this is a team that you can talk about as a Super Bowl contender now. If they get 9 and
Mhm.
1, this is most definitely a Super Bowl contending team. I think you can't even, if they're 9 and 1, you can't even talk about them not in the Super Bowl conversation. Um, but yeah, they've been doing great. But I was gonna ask you, is there like any weaknesses you see on this Colts team that could haunt them later in the postseason in January?
That's why honestly I brought up the trade deadline because at this point I would say just I guess I would say at most, because I've you've always talked about it, I've always seen it, is just make sure the secondary looks good. Like if you got to go find either an average or above average cornerback, go trade for him because y'all know this is gonna be a generational run this year because nobody expected this. So and the way you're beating all like no AFC team looks as good as the Colts are. Like you look at the Bills, they're not great defensively. The Chiefs, they're not. Yeah, they're coming back up, but they're not looking as deadly as they used to be. Steelers, they at this point you don't know who the Steelers are, but they can shoot themselves in the foot. But like all these other AFC teams, just I feel if the Colts had to play any of them in the playoffs, Colts would win. Like I'm not gonna lie, it would only be the NFC teams that would be a tough matchup against them, which would be in the Super Bowl. And I could see it like if today was the Super Bowl, I could either see it Colts versus Rams, Colts versus Lions, and those would all be great games.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, shoot, you look at the NFC, I feel like the NFC this year is definitely tougher than the AFC,
No, yeah, oh yeah,
in my opinion. And I mean, that's, generally what you're seeing with record wise. And I feel like there's so many good teams in the NFC. I mean, when I think about the NFC, the Bucks, the Eagles, the Lions, the
mm,
Packers, all teams that are just really good. And that's not even including all of them, right? The Falcons are
yeah,
starting to look pretty good as well. So, and the Vikings, they're a iffy team. They
they're
got destroyed
subpar.
by the
Yeah,
Chargers.
yeah,
Yeah, which I was like, the Chargers look good all of a sudden. I mean, you looked at them and I'm like, damn,
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
team that the Colts destroyed. Like that
It's,
just tells you a lot about where this Colts team is as a unit.
mhm,
They're just a unit. They're just a physical team. Even Matthew Stafford described them as a big physical football team when he faced them. Like they're gonna get in your face and they're gonna make you earn it. They're gonna
yeah,
make you earn every yard that you get. And when you look at the season outlook, right, week 8, obviously, they're facing the Tennessee Titans, which should be a win. We will
yeah. Oh
see. It
yeah,
is a divisional game. Week 9, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shane Steichen has had a great track record versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that should continue, right? We shall hope for that. Week 10, we have the Atlanta
mhm,
Falcons going all the way in, I believe it's Germany.
mm.
It's a Germany game.
Mm.
So Berlin, Germany. I think it's going to be international. So,
Hopefully that
that
doesn't
should be.
affect. That doesn't. Hopefully it doesn't affect us nationally.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we'll see who's more affected, that layover, right?
Mm.
Because obviously it's a huge time zone difference, but
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think it should have too big of a difference. And then week 11, glad we have the bye week to at least get healthy because the Colts, they do have injuries that are affecting them right now. Samson Ebukam is dealing with an injury, Taekwon Lewis. Of course, those are more depth defensive
mm,
ends. And, you also have Jalen Jones and Travius Ward, right? Your two top corners right now are both out. So you want to get those
mm,
guys healthy for the Chiefs game in week 12 after the bye. which considering you have prep, right, like a bye week, that should be a win. But of course, you saw what happened to Houston against Seattle. It's like you got to take
Yeah,
advantage of the bye week. You got to take
yeah.
advantage of that extra prep you can have against that football team. And then it gets tougher for the Colts, right? Like after the third quarter is the Steelers, the Falcons, the Chiefs, and the Texans. Yeah, I know the Texans haven't been looking the best, but they're still the Texans, meaning their defense is
Yeah.
still going to play you really physical. So I think it still will be a good matchup. And then that last quarter is going to be the last push, right? The Jaguars twice. You have Seattle, the Niners. You have the Texans one more time, right? That's going to be a tough, I would say, your toughest quarter of the year, right, for the Indianapolis Colts. So ending at 9-1 before the bye, I would say, is very necessary, especially
Oh
because
yeah.
you're going to be going into a tough part of your season after the bye. But yeah, I mean, Aaron, you're kind of saying it, but what do you kind of think of these last stretches for this Colts team?
Honestly, for the Colts, like if they continue winning, at most, even if they get say one loss, like I still feel Colts are going to be the number one seed. Like that's not like because these other teams are just not winning their games. Like I said before, like the Bills and all them. Like I didn't think the Bills were going to lose to the Falcons, but look how bad they got beat by the Falcons. Like yeah, the score was close,
Yeah,
but the Falcons like outplayed them, and that's how like a lot of the other AFC teams are. They're getting outplayed, and then you look at the Colts. The Colts are really holding their own. They know what they're doing. If something's wrong, they'll fix it. That's why I think like at the end of it, Colts will be the number one seed locked in, even when their bye say a week after their bye week is done. Like because I feel they're going to keep that one loss for a minute. Like that's how it's going because the rest of your season, like say that going up against the Titans, going up against like these other kind of lesser above less than 500 teams, like y'all will beat those teams. Y'all don't play to your level. Like that's how it's been all season. Y'all don't play to play below your level, and that's what's good about y'all. And honestly, if Nick Cayley is still our OC and we play y'all, I'm rooting for y'all. I
Oh, I
don't
don't
care.
know. I
I
don't know
don't
what's gonna
care.
happen there.
I'm at this
Lou
point like,
Anarumo,
dude,
yeah,
I'm at this point like I need Nick Cayley off of this team. I need Nick Casario off of this team because Nick Casario is the main reason why we have a terrible offensive line, and because he's the GM, he could have done more, but he didn't. So at this point, dude, I'm ready to clean house. I am.
yeah. I mean, sure, I can't blame you, man. If I was in your position, and it's just like you want Nick Haley to be off the team. Even the GM that wasn't doing anything about that offensive line. That offensive line unit is not looking very good right now for the Houston
Yeah,
Texans, and it's got to be fixed. It's got to
yeah,
be fixed somehow. But the Colts, I mean, we'll see what happens there. But it's kind of weird because if you look at the season outlook and you look at the league, it really feels like the AFC has the talent right now,
hmm
but the NFC, they have less talent than the AFC, but I would argue they have better coaches and better
yeah,
systems
and better offensive
than
linemen.
the AFC. Obviously, yeah, maybe even
Yeah,
better offensive lines, but and because I mentioned four NFC teams that are really good without even mentioning the Rams.
yeah, yeah.
Or did I even mention the 49ers? Like, I don't believe I did. I mean, I only mentioned the Eagles, the Bucks, the Lions,
Mm.
and maybe I did mention, the 49ers, of course, and the Rams and Seattle, of
That's why with
course.
the NFC,
I
that's
just
why with the
mentioned
NFC,
six teams I
you
could
wouldn't know
probably
who's
throw
coming out of the
out.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. I already mentioned six teams and there's only seven slots, so I think the
Yeah.
NFC now, it's going to be interesting to see how that
Mm.
finalizes. I think with the AFC, it's more predictable to see who's going to make the playoffs based off like early on in the year. But the
Mhm.
AFC, I just think, they have talent, but I feel like the coaching is so much better on the NFC this year, which is why I would argue the NFC has looked a lot better. It's like before
Yeah.
COVID, right? Pre-COVID,
Mhm.
2018-19, the NFC looked really good. It was so much more
Yeah, yeah.
better coaching wise, and the teams were really good. But yeah, I feel like with the AFC, if the Colts are going to do it this year, man, this is the year to do it. I
Yeah.
think Mahomes, the Chiefs have not looked at their peak. The Bills are not looking at their peak. All these good teams, the Ravens, right? All the big dog teams, Joe Burrow's out, right? So all the big name quarterbacks right now are kind of dealing with issues, I guess except for Mahomes and, Josh
Yeah.
Allen, because, they still have good records. But if you're the Colts, you have to take advantage of this and get the 1 seed, right? Guarantee that they have to come to your house and beat you at Lucas Oil and not the other way around, right? Get
Mhm.
Daniel Jones comfortable at home because I feel like if the Colts are at home, they can definitely ride it all the way to the Super Bowl. But again, we shall see. But any last thoughts from you, Aaron, regarding this AFC South or the Texans team so far?
Dude, I just hate that my birthday weekend is it's depressing as a Texan fan. I hate that
Yeah.
it is like this. That I'm already like I don't care if we lose this weekend. I'm at this point like I don't care. I just want Nick Haley off my team.
Oh man, I mean, shoot, we'll see. Hopefully all things get better with Houston. But that'll be it. With the Just Arrival podcast, it was me, DJ Be Cool, co-host Aaron, the Texans fan. Texans looking to get better against the San Francisco 49ers, looking to improve on the offensive side. The Colts looking to dominate against the Tennessee Titans. We will see what happens this Sunday, but you have been Just Arrival.